And good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Last Week Now. This is my partner, Al Calder. I'm Chuck Black. We are just doing an overview of the main stories published last week in our website, Freedom Forum News. And it relates to our current pandemic, the Great Reset, and all those other wonderful things that are supposedly happening,
Does
right?
does this show have a name, Chuck?
I said last week now, didn't I?
Maybe last week, but not now.
We will keep changing the name until we get it right. But this week it's last week now.
Exactly. I'm still good on that one. I will keep trying it as long you're right until we get it right.
Yeah.
Or it goes on it.
And Al, I got to ask the obvious question. What was the best of the 14 or the 15 stories we did last week? What was the most important?
I will say the Chris Sky story going over the airport, because it's one of those things that seems like at an airport you can't make your own rules. You got to follow the rules. They're in charge, or they're going to get you kind of thing. They're very scary places sometimes, airports. But the
I
story
remember that, yes.
Chris Guy comes through an international flight, walking through the airport, screaming about how I'm not going to take a test. What are you going to do? Give me a ticket? It's better to stay in a hotel. If you're a Canadian citizen, you have the rights to stay. You don't have to stay in those goddamn hotels, And it was on video too. And the cops were saying, "Oh, we're gonna video. We have a video on this." So he's like, "Oh, thank God. So do I. What a small world."
Here is the context for the video. Chris Guy came back from Europe early in the week, and he came back the first day of a new series of federally mandated COVID rules, rules relating to quarantining, uh, rules relating to having to take a test right at the airport, rules relating to a whole bunch of things. And he had obviously uh, talked with legal representation before coming out of the airport. And he basically told everybody there that he didn't have to take the test. It was violating his Canadian constitutional rights. And the police agreed with him that what he was doing was perfectly legal, although they did fine him. And then he said, how many of these tickets are actually going to be paid? And none of them, because they're unconstitutional. Anyone can get them thrown out of court when they get to court. And then he said on in the final analysis, he said it much less polite than me. He was yelling at one point. But he said
He's still pretty composed though. He's still rather polite though.
he was. And when somebody told him no yelling, he was very polite. He said, "No, you're right. I shouldn't do that." And he was very intelligent, very, very put together. He walked out with a ticket that was essentially worth nothing. He didn't have to self-isolate. He didn't have to take the COVID test. He didn't have to pay the $2,000 for the COVID hotel. And then he posted his video on YouTube, and he got 500,000 views almost immediately. And then the next day, the story sort of went viral. He was followed up with a post from a local publication in Saga Today, which actually called the Peel Police and confirmed that with the Peel Police that they're not detaining or arresting people who leave the arrival area without self-isolating. And after that, the story blew up again. He was on Alex Jones for like 35 minutes. And you go.
As I mentioned, then I didn't have. Did he talk about turning gay frogs? Did he grab one of those souvenir gay frogs?
I love Alex Jones's story about turning the frogs gay, and the video he put together with the pounding rock music on turning frogs gay. I love that.
Yeah, that's Alex Jones for you. He's a real newsman.
Yeah, but I am surprised that except for the February 23rd, 2021 in Saga News post on the topic, it's generally not something that's been picked up by the mainstream media, the legacy media. It's obviously not really been on CBC. It's obviously not really been on CTV. Although they've been making.
I don't watch any of them anyway.
They what?
I don't watch any of them anywhere. Anyway, I don't watch them anyway. I really don't.
Yeah, but it's a very important thing. I'm surprised that it's so obvious these rules are unconstitutional, and mostly illegal. And anybody with enough money to hire a lawyer figures this out fairly quickly, learns the proper things to say, and basically carries on their life as they're supposed to do it. Which reminds me, do what?
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Now, I say these things if needed as well, but anyone can now say these things. They know what to say. They know that it's okay.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the reason why the legacy news doesn't want to talk about this stuff.
They're fine with the way things are.
Yes, which sort of brings us to what I think is the second most important story of the week. All these legal cases that are coming to the fore at this point. All these objections, these legal objections to the COVID-19 lockdowns across Canada and around the world. And I think we did two important stories this week on them. This story has been hanging around for a couple of days that I've been wanting to put out for a while. It's our March 1st, 2021 story. Canadian group generates a list of 30 plus successful and ongoing COVID-19 lawsuits. And this comes to me through Stand Up Canada. Laura Tucci, I believe her name is. And she just collected 30 specific lawsuits from around the world. 8 are from Canada. And just it creates a perception that sane and rational legal experts believe this lockdown legislation, not just provincially or federally in Canada, but in the US, in Europe, even South America, are essentially chipping away at the constitutional freedoms. And you take it to court, all these things will be reversed. I think it's also noteworthy in this article in particular that most of the court cases in Europe, the US, and even in South America have actually been decided, whereas only one of the 8 cases listed on this website in Canada has actually come to trial. Although we'll get into this in a few minutes. A second one is definitely coming to trial today, and it'll be heard over the next 2 or 3 days in a BC court. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's good to be getting some decisions then. It has to work this way up through the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it does. And this isn't even, none of these in Canada are even Supreme Court cases. They're all provincial Superior Court cases right now.
Yeah, well, they will be eventually though.
Yes, but they're going up the case. One was NorthX Fitness, which we talked about on February 12th. One thing I particularly like is that at least 3 examples, which will be on the list over the next few days, in Quebec, in Ontario, and in Alberta, were actually posted on Freedom Forum News first, and those are our contributions to the overall list. So I'm pretty happy there. 2 of those actually didn't come from us. 2 of those came from Viva Free. He's the Quebec-based YouTube legal blogger who's one of my heroes. I think he does really good work.
Honestly, Chuck, the reason I'm wearing a tie is just to be in the same associated with him for legal matters is a real honor.
To be fair, you passed the bar once, and you actually.
Chuck, to be fair, I haven't passed the bar in my entire life.
Well, you stopped long enough to at least be allowed to become a proper lawyer if you wanted to. Yeah.
I have a lottery, but I did not go do my bar admission courses though.
No.
Or what do you do? Or to claim the board admission then, which are the final steps if you want to be a lawyer then?
No, fair enough. What do you think of all these court cases coming down the pipe? And most of them are being decided in favor of people who are objecting to the restrictions on their freedoms.
Well, because it's obviously unconstitutional, Chuck. Like, so, and someone in grade 5 could figure that out.
Yes.
Seriously.
That you go.
No, really, it's just like so obviously. You don't have to have a law degree or be a lawyer to read the Constitution and understand there's no ifs, ands, or buts in the Constitution. Like, this is what laws have to compare themselves to if they want to be considered legal in Canada.
No, I agree 100%. I also note it's not included in the list we're talking about, but I also note in the article that a lot more court cases are expected to come down the pipeline really, really soon. Adamson's barbecue owner, Adam Skelly, has promised to go to the Supreme Court over the Ontario extended lockdown.
Well, he
Chris,
has
you
millions
go.
of dollars, and he says millions of dollars is his GoFundMe campaign by now, I'm sure.
Yeah. I would say Chris Sky and anybody else coming to Canada and refusing the lockdown regulations and getting the $800 ticket, they're all going to challenge Canadian quarantine regulations. There must be dozens of them by now, and even local activists like Kellyanne Wolf and Lamont Daigle, who've been arrested and ticketed numerous times. Anthony Geglardia in Hamilton, who's been arrested and ticketed numerous times for the protest he's put on in Hamilton. All these people are going to go to court at some point, and they're going to overturn these regulations. This is only a matter of time right now.
Most of those people, I've met all those people that you mentioned, they're all at least dedicated to the cause.
Yeah, and they'd all rather be doing something else.
You know?
Yeah.
They're well spoken and they know what they're talking about, and they've had some good legal representation and advice.
Yes. And I also notice that Rebel News has an entire website, a Fight the Fines website, dedicated to finding people intending to fight fines levied under the various lockdown regulations. I see dozens and dozens and dozens of cases going to court just as soon as the courts open up again. I don't see anywhere.
Chuck, do you have a date for that, Chuck?
No, because I mean, Ontario courts are still mostly locked down. I would imagine courts right across the country are slower than what they should be. It'll take years for these things to go to court.
100%, Chuck. That's what I was kind of driving towards.
Yeah, and until that happens,
by accident. That's not by accident then. Don't forget that one time that they were letting people who had minor offenses out of jail because they didn't have room to trial them. So it was cheaper to have them leave jail and just be let go than to keep them in trial for something minor, some stupid offense.
No, I agree. It's going to be years before the errors and constitutional wrongs that have happened over the last year or so. It'll be years before those things are addressed.
Yeah, lucky Justine Trudeau.
Yeah, but at this point, it should be obvious to anybody who cares to look who's on the right side of history at this point.
Is it the problem people just don't give a shit, Chuck? Like, I wonder that sometimes too. It just seems like why aren't there more people that are really pissed off at this? Where are the parents? Where are the where are the parents who's okay with their kids living like that in a school?
I don't know. That reminds me, that's something else we didn't include in the article. All the parents who are suing so their kids don't have to do stupid things.
I agree. That's important, Chuck.
Yeah, no, I agree. I also note that an important case is coming up starting today, actually. Churches in court today to challenge BC's COVID-19 health orders. The case will carry on for 3 days. It's a petition filed by the Calgary-based Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, which has been dealing with a lot of these cases yesterday. They have court cases in 5 provinces, anti-lockdown court cases, and they are on the front lines of trying to get some of these things constitutionally overturned. And I'm also told,
yeah, pardon? Sorry, they have quite a few lawyers in there. I think I went to their site. They have a few lawyers there, don't they?
Yeah, I think they got 10. They have something around that.
That's very respectable, because the thing is, constitutional law requires constitutional lawyers. Yes. That's just how it is, and that's just a lot of work. Get on.
As much as I respect someone like Rahul Galati, he is a one-person operation, and these guys at the Justice Center, there is 10 of them. They've been around since 2000. They've been dealing with a lot of constitutional cases, and they are pros. They are moving forward.
I respect them.
Yeah, and to be fair, there is a big party going outside of the courthouse in BC to support the case, and it happened today. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen Wednesday as well. Here's a list of some of the speakers. These people are fairly substantial pro-freedom rallyists, and they've been doing this sort of thing for a year at this point. Some of them are very talented. I see Laura Lynn Thompson there. I see Kevin J. Johnson, who is a bit of a showman, but I respect his work.
Question. I agree with those comments. I have a question about that though, Chuck.
Yes.
I thought the issue was that he was not allowed to leave Ontario though for some legal reason then.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. He was not allowed to leave Ontario until his court case. Let it be known that he's probably going to object to his court case as well.
I'd assume as well, but that doesn't change the fact that he was still not going to Calgary, where he's the incumbent mayor.
I have no idea how that worked out. Maybe his restrictions were lifted. I mean, he lives in BC, doesn't he? Or he lives in Calgary. I'm sorry.
Why is he always in Toronto?
I don't know.
Why can't he leave Ontario then? But that doesn't sound right.
I don't know. But evidently
some of those things don't match up. They can't all be right.
It's definitely a curious universe we live in right now.
I see him all the time. You and me saw him at a media meeting one time, Chuck, at a bar.
No, I recognize that. Kevin Johnson is traveling all across the country. He's one of the most active anti-lockdown protesters.
Totally. And he makes the show every 20 minutes too.
Yeah. Like I said, I respect what he's doing, but I think he's more than moderately goofy. I also want to quickly mention Carla Wilczuk, who was this week's one-on-one with Doug Forrest guest. We have an exclusive to push these out just as fast as Doug Forrest gets them to us. And Carla Wilczuk is an owner and administrator of something called Carilock Acres, which is a 25-acre wellness retreat outside Edmonton, Alberta, where people don't wear masks and people function normally and people hug and people do all sorts of things that they have mostly been not allowed to do over the last year in Canada.
Can you pay for premium services, sort of thing? That kind of place?
Yeah, you pay for premium services, but other than the fee you pay, it's sort of like Shangri-La.
Yeah, see, Chuck, I think you know what I was getting at by premium services, Chuck.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that works. But I think the idea behind it is actually a pretty good thing.
That's pretty cool. I'm all about the peace, love, and harmony thing, is which I've been calling this sort of movement for some time then as well. It's all about the peace, love, and harmony, like hugs over masks. When we go to Dundas Square weekly, then people are all giving out food and hugging each other, and so it's a very welcoming and touchy-feely kind of place. I like it.
Yeah, even
recently,
like
this kind of place.
Yeah.
I like.
When it is, but more so, nobody wears masks. People do carpentry work. They reconnect with nature. I'm told it fronts a lake, so in the summer it's a pretty neat place to go to. You can fish and you can do all sorts of neat things.
Yeah. That's great, Chuck. Are we just reporting on here? Let's do it. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move out there.
So what about
you? Go.
So which stories then are you looking for next then? Because I was thinking one that I thought was important that I sent to you that email just before the show about the old folks homes, right?
Oh, the Alberta government transferring COVID positive patients into care homes.
Right.
Yes.
So what I was doing though, Chuck, and the reason for the stories like that is I was trying to figure out, like, I just trying to do some research beside the stories to find a bit to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? Then I'm like, wait a minute, these are the same people that were talking about these the death rates, etc., and where there people were dying in old folks' homes a year ago. Like we're in old folks, I was like, what's their plan here? Like, what are they doing? They haven't done a goddamn thing properly. Like, and all they're doing is putting them into these like. They may as well move them into coffins directly then, instead of eating the shitty food.
Yeah.
And they don't see their loved ones.
This is an exclusive by something called the National Telegraph. And been mostly ignored in Canada, but it does dovetail with things that have been reported on in New York about De Blasio
Cuomo,
putting putting people in old folks' homes so everybody dies together.
And the thing is moving them around between old folks homes, some with COVID, some without, until they all have COVID. And then the big story with that is like Cuomo's had an assistant who admitted during this Trump campaign to not tell the national government about all the COVID patients in the old folks homes because they were afraid that it'd be used against him.
Yeah.
And so they didn't tell Trump, so they could just it's just such a crappy way to do politics. So
I have parents well into their 80s in Alberta, and they're hale and hearty right now, but they're one of their most biggest fears is the thought that they may lose their mobility or they will lose their capability to live independently, and they'll have to move into an old folks home at some point because they're up in northern Alberta right now. It's hard to find a communal living arrangement that's appropriate for seniors, and this is a really important story. I'm a little bit shocked that only the National Telegraph is dealing with this in Canada right now. And I wish them the best of luck in their investigation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with that too. And the problem is the governments are very hard. They have very bad luck at finding the governments that are at fault for anything, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. We also got a short piece from Rosemary Free. She's a scientist. She's very intelligent. I don't know if she's related to the guy in Montreal who does the legal cases. But she's been.
Chuck, what kind of shitty journalists are we? You've spoken to both of them.
Yeah, maybe one's a relative. I don't know.
I guess, who could we ask, Chuck?
Yeah, but she has a pretty good scientific analysis of what's happening with COVID statistical analysis, and her stuff is being republished in a number of other areas right now. And she is a professional, very competent journalist. She gives an overview on video. Yeah, she gives an overview on video.
She comes across very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And she comes across with statistics. What I love about people who come with statistics is that they come with statistics and not just like mouthing off about things that I probably agree with, but they can prove what they're talking about.
No, that makes
so I can tell sense. Other people, I can tell other people and prove it too. No,
I agree with 100% that. She's got 3 or 4 more articles coming in upcoming weeks. I look forward to seeing them, and I think she has a great and good future ahead of her.
And another one of my favorite people in the world, Chuck, of course, is Pastor Henry Hildebrand.
Yes, he has come out in support of Alberta Pastor James Coates, who we mentioned last week. Coates was kept in jail because he wouldn't agree to his conditions for release, and the conditions for release had to do with not being a pastor and not organizing church services and not attending church services, which, to be fair, if you're a pastor, these are kind of mandatory things to do.
Yeah, and sort of aren't they part of your religious requirements a bit as well?
Yes, absolutely.
No church, and by the way, no forgiving anyone either.
Yeah. Henry Hildebrand came out in favor of Pastor Coates. His actions, he believes Pastor Coates is doing essential work to move forward the court cases. And that goes back to the things we were talking about earlier, all these court cases coming down the pipeline.
And Hildebrand is no stranger to controversy either as well.
No, he's been trying to keep his church open for ever since the first lockdown in March.
Hey, Chuck, I would agree with you. Other than the language you use, he's not been trying to keep his church open. He has kept his church open.
You're right. He's been succeeding.
And like no one. The thing is, it's because he fights against the establishment about this kind of stuff, and he wins. He does it right. And he also has different religious sources, rather biblical sources that he quotes, so it makes more sense to people who are into that kind of thing.
No,
and I could never have an argument with someone I could never have an argument with someone in the synagogue about the Bible or anything like that. You know what I mean? But he can, and I respect that because he knows what he's talking about.
I agree, 100%. He is
Passionate.
One of the heroes in
Like,
this lockdown movement. At 100 years from now, he'll be remembered.
I couldn't agree more though, Chuck, because I think to himself, at Dundas Square that one time, he brought the Constitution and he's like, remember your daddy signed this, Trudeau, right here, you know? And I'm like, this is pretty, and then people were, I was eating us up as well as everyone else then. And I was saying, you know what, I'm a man of God up there, dressed with these people who look like they're with God, you know, and saying these things brings everyone together then.
No, I agree.
Really
I agree. He is a memorable man, and we will hear more from him over in the next weeks.
People will follow him, and I would follow him.
Yes, and I think that's sort of pretty much everything we were going to talk about this week. Yeah, that's most of it. I think we forgot that Kellyanne Wolf wasn't arrested this week, and she set up a fund to raise money for her court costs. So I suppose we should remember that. And she actually wrote a little thing that we posted on our news feed. She's further up than $1,400. Let's see what she's really at this point. She's almost just under $3,000 right now. That's enough to get. I think that's enough to retain a lawyer. And you know, I wish her the best of luck. We all need money to fight these incredible federal government overreaches. So I definitely wish her the best of luck.
Me as well, though, too. You know, what I will say about Kellyanne Wolf as well, then, is that she had stood up on the stage and took the mic and got the tickets, you know, and fought the good fight as strong as she could, for real.
I would say that's true. We all contribute as we are able to, and in a situation like this, we need a Pastor Hildebrand, and we need a Kellyanne Wolf, and we need a Chris Sky, and we need a whole bunch of other people to each contribute in their own ways. And who knows, maybe they need you and us as well, Al.
Well, I was thinking, you know, have you got your Alan Calder starting card? Like rookie card out? But I was thinking about you. It seems like we do a fairly decent job of keeping track of the people who are involved with the movement, then, Chuck.
Only time will tell. I think we're starting along a useful path.
Why can't this just why in God's name won't this just stop? Like, why does this have to keep going on? It doesn't even make sense any further than their stories are tripping over each other now these days, and just I don't get it. I just don't understand. There's got to be something going on here that they're going to have to come clean on eventually, I predict. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial on it. It just doesn't make any sense.
I agree. A lot of what I've always been saying is that after a year, COVID is still here. If the government wanted to get rid of COVID, they would have changed their strategy by now. The only thing that is consistent and ongoing is a destruction of the savings of the middle class, destruction of small and medium local businesses, and the bodily moving of huge amounts of money to the upper class, foreign-owned upper classes. You know, the Bill Gates, the Elon Musk. Don't get me wrong, I like Elon Musk, but
I don't understand why people, you and Brian, like people. I don't understand why people like Elon Musk though. I don't exactly get it that much though. Is his $1 billion smells cleaner than other people's then?
I don't know. I think he's building rocket ships. He's not creating viruses.
Really? Really? I'm meeting him in Mars a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was going to go to Mars in a couple of years. We don't know if that's going to happen yet. Next couple of years, not the last ones.
Well, that we know when it's. You know, I bet the same amount of money. I bet all of the pharma on last year and next year both that he won't go.
Yeah, probably true. I would argue that even Elon Musk is contributing to a infrastructure that will support the creation of an Internet of Things that will essentially track each and every one of us for each and everything we do. So maybe he's not a hero.
You know what's funny, Chuck?
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Chuck, is that our old history that most people likely don't know about it then is that we tracked and covered the space and aerospace industry in Canada then.
Yeah,
and we couldn't accomplish this sort of thing as well. Yeah, exactly then. But the point is that so we're particularly knowledgeable. Chuck is specifically knowledgeable and connected in this industry as well. we do know quite a bit about the space industry, like more than most people, for real.
Yeah.
Chuck knows
But that's a
in it.
small
You have to-
potatoes. That's a small beat. This is the
I mean,
big
to be
one
fair,
these days.
Chuck's scared it out of Canada.
And with that said and done, I am going to urge everybody to check out our website at freedomforumcanada.com. We will include the site in the show notes below. Check out our upcoming posts in Freedom Forum News. Check out our social media. We are on Facebook right now. We are on Telegram. We are on Twitter. Over the next couple of weeks, we're moving into other areas as well. And I would encourage everybody watching to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Am I missing
You can
anything?
imagine Chuck. Yes, and if you can imagine, Chuck and myself are both single. Anyway, we'll catch up with you next week.
That's all for tonight. That's all for last week now. And we'll be back next week about this time. Thank you.